Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Vialle MX Post-Race Show, the Hangtown edition. Yes, the heater at Hangtown is in the rearview mirror. That would be round 2 of 2025 Pro Motocross, and there is a lot to unpack, as always, as both 450MX and 250MX title fights have become a little bit clearer already. But is it all done after just 2 rounds, or is there something to look forward to? We'll dissect that and figure it out over the next hour or so. Thank you, of course, goes to our sponsors, those being Decal Works, Jo Shimoda, Yamaha Motor USA, Motorex, and Fox Racing. Thank you to those guys for all that they do for not only us, but the sport in general. And we've had them on board all year long. This is now round 19 of the SMX World Championship. Only 11 more to go. 12 more to go. 11 more to go. Math is hard, but what's surprising is that that's just made me realise we're closer to the end than I actually realised. So that's also bummed me out a little bit. But I'm not going to let that deter me too much. Let's get on with the podcast. I'm, of course, joined by Michael Lindsay. Hello, how are you?
Hello. Doing decent. A little kind of bummed I missed Hangtown in person. Maybe not so much because of the heat, but I cooked myself on my Italy trip, so here I am.
Well, we're back on video as well, so sorry for the photo inconvenience last week.
I want to know how many people thought the video was just frozen for the first bit of last week's.
Well, I was an actual photo, so I think that gave it away. But of course, the Italian trip you mentioned made that logistically difficult for us. But we're back with our regularly scheduled programming, and Hangtown was very much regularly scheduled programming as Jett Lawrence and Haiden Deegan won their respective classes. Let's start with 450s. The first moto was very much an exercise in breathing life into the 450 class, as AP looked better than maybe ever. Eli, of course, won. Jett looked vulnerable, beatable, which is, of course, always a question mark that we have after Fox Raceway. There was already talk of a perfect season. But then the second moto very much was business resumed as normal. So how do you feel about Jett after 2 rounds? 3 out of 4 moto wins, 2 overall wins, 16-point lead. Are you fully on the... This is Jett Lawrence's championship. Jett Lawrence is the man. The Jett Lawrence hype train, or are you a little more open-minded?
It's definitely. I mean, it's small because of the 9th for it was, I think, Sakamoto for Eli. I mean, he's got a little bit of a points gap now, which, I mean, in general, Jett is great at managing races, managing championship, I think. So there's a bit of a concern there. I will say the first moto did breathe life into not just that immediate, but the entire run for me, due to the fact that, Eli proved one thing, at least, that Jett is beatable, and there's maybe a way to beat him in the sense of you just have to push the pace. Jett is definitely not in a position where he seems like he wants to go push things too far. I don't know if that's a combination of bike setup, just where he feels like he's at this point in the championship, but at least that early peak on Moto 1 is, okay, maybe if you can get out front ahead of him and push a pace that he doesn't want to go right now, he doesn't seem like he's in a position where, even though we see the qualifying time pace can be so high, in whether it's as the track breaks down, back-to-back laps trying to control the bike, he doesn't want to push that. At least, okay, there is a formula here Eli could use to rein this in. The chance of that happening seem a little tough, though. It is just disappointing, though, a little bit that we're this early in the championship, and not only do we have a 2-dog fight, in a sense that, yeah, it does seem to really lean in Jett's favor in terms of controlling races, because, yeah, Jett and Hunter didn't have great starts in Moto 1. They tried to go no scoop, immediately came back the second Moto and did it. And we see how, Eli has definitely become a better, it's a theme with him. He's become a better starter in his time with Star Racing. It's still not consistent enough to go up against Jett. So I don't know. I think from a battle standpoint, we could have some exciting races this season in terms of championship. I don't know how exciting the championship itself will be. Eli's going to be the chaser now, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, everything you said makes sense, although I just feel like the second moto debunks all of it. Because, yes, Jett was clearly unhappy with bike setup in Moto 1, and then resurrected all problems, and it was business as usual. Now, of course, we didn't see Jett and Eli go head-to-head. Maybe Eli just would have been better had he started with Jett in a second moto, one of life's great unanswered questions. But at this point, with the data we have, I just find it hard to look past Jett in this field, because Jett is phenomenal. Like, I think maybe we overlook just how good he's been. His career 450 MX tally is at 16-1 now. Of course, the one that he lost was Hangtown last year. And I think we look back on last year outdoors after the Hangtown crash as being so injury-ridden and riddled, and just difficult. We forget he did only lose Hangtown as far as overalls go. So, I don't know. Do I think he's going to win every overall? No. Yeah. Do I think that he will open the door and allow Eli to close in on the 17 points, I believe, that he has on Eli? It's AP who's second in the points. No. I think that, Eli will beat Jett, first to second, first to third, and maybe there's a round where Eli goes 1-1, Jett goes 2-2, but I don't think that there will be enough of a run for Eli or enough of a swing in a single race where Eli pushes Jett for this championship now.
Yeah. It's going to take a lot from Eli. At least what I will say is, again, back to the Bree life. I mean, the second moto was exciting, and I hope we get more of that. I mean, I think it's hard to deny the insane pace that Eli was pushing in the second moto. The crash itself, you could almost see coming, because I get it. He was picking off, the first lap or two, he was picking off, 6 guys, 8 guys a lap. Then he started kind of getting into an average of 2 guys a lap. He ended up in a position where he lost his preferred line choice and was trying to push really hard to get basically 2 guys at once. And you could see the front end push coming from a mile away when he did it. I don't know, those pace, I won't say it. I won't straight up. I agree with you in the sense that it seems like it would be very obvious that these guys will go 1-2, 2-1 a lot. This is why at least there's a hope on the championship. I do think Eli has enough pace to go 1-1. The one thing that's interesting with this is Jett's, yes, I don't think we give Jett enough credit in the sense of, yes, his total now is 16, 17, or, for his 450s. Not much of that has been up against Eli. A little bit of it has, but not a lot. And also, to give credit, you have to look at what Eli has done as an outdoor racer before that point. So I think to completely knock it off again, the one thing I could see playing in Eli's hand is, this might be a later season thing, but let's say he gets a couple races where he gets 2-3 points a weekend, just slowly chips it down. We get into a point where Jett maybe has to push the pace, and if they can't really dial him in, we've seen Jett's been a little more injury. I mean, both Jett and Eli have been more injury prone the last years. What is this? This goes for either of them. One of them could push the other into a mistake that could get them hurt. I know that's looking for different circumstance, but I think it's plausible and something that has to be considered.
If you want some positivity from me on the Eli Jett championship front, the last time that Eli won this title in 2022, he was 4th at the first round and 3rd at the second round, and then caught fire and was never out of the top 2 and eventually won the championship. So there is some evidence of Eli struggling at these 2 events and then going on a bit of a tear.
Which is funny, because we think, again, we were quoting coming in as how strong of a round Hangtown has been for Eli. I don't know. Some of it, I really want to see how it shakes out the next 2 races. We know Thunder Valley is another good Eli venue. Once we get east, I just want to see, straight up, where does Eli set? We get into hotter rounds. Eli seems to be in phenomenal shape. Not that Jett isn't, but I think Eli might have a little bit of the nod there. And then just bike setup wise, Jett is struggling right now. Does that get easier when they go east, or does that get worse when they go east? And how much do they have to chase? There's just enough maybes that keeps me hopeful, but I think the one thing I can say, at least, even though Aaron had an amazing weekend and Plessinger continues to improve as his career goes on, it just feels like a 2-dog fight between Eli and Jett, with guys like Aaron and Justin and Hunter nipping at their heels. And I do think Aaron, man, I feel for Aaron. There's got to be a moto win somewhere in this season for him. There has to be, right?
Yeah, well, before we go on to AP, Jett did say after the race in an interview that's on our YouTube channel that he is still very much searching with bike setup, specifically stability in downhills. He said he's got some chassis testing this week, among other things. So there's a lot going on there with him trying to get better. It does seem that there's a long way for him to go. Like, this is nowhere near Jett's 100%. Which is perhaps telling for his competitors, considering he's 2 for 0 so far. And speaking of his first moto start, which was subpar by his standards, he said that he missed the shift. So, point being, it was user error on Jett's behalf, and therefore he couldn't make full use of that Yoshimura power, which was right there beneath him and ready to be utilized. And Jett, even as amazing as Jett is, just couldn't quite execute, which is a shame, because with that Yoshimura power, he would have, without a doubt, whole shot by perhaps a couple of bike lengths. And you too can make use of similar power on your motorcycle by heading to yoshimura-rd.com to see all that they have to offer for your bike, no matter what it is. There's a wide array of products at yoshimura-rd.com, and something specifically for you. So I would highly recommend that you check that out. And also on Eli, I wanted to say, and I want to dig into this some more. I meant to do it before this podcast, but time was a little bit restricted. For whatever reason, Sector 2 in both motos, Eli was just unreal. In the first moto, Eli's best time in Sector 2 was a 21.9. The next best time was a 22.5, and that was AP. And then in the second moto...
What is Sector 2 on the map?
Well,
is it after
with outdoors, they're much bigger sectors.
Yeah,
so,
is it after Big Mo? Or
well, I don't know what Big Mo is.
The corner hill jump.
I'm not sure I've ever heard someone call it Big Mo.
That's literally what they label it on. Yeah, that's it, Lewis.
I've never heard Big Mo in my life. Who is Mo?
Sorry, Lewis. Just, you're the man on the ground. I thought you would know these things.
Who is Big Mo?
I don't know, but maybe you should find out.
I've never heard it mentioned this in my life. If you've heard of Big Mo in your life, let us know in the comments.
They made a very big deal about it on the broadcast. That's what they called it every single lap. Big Mo, Big Mo.
Baffled. But no, I don't think that's Big Mo then. It's... I don't know. I don't know what this corner's called. Big...
Is
Julian?
It after the first down? Is it after the left-hand sweeper over the corner jump, which is Big Mo? Is it after that downhill? Or?
No, it's down that hill, back up the hill, that 180, and then basically from the first jump after that 180, all the way round until the tight little section before the former Fly 150. Basically, it's a fairly big section that includes the uphill waves.
Yeah. There's a couple reasons. One, Eli was really good at just like after the first downhill, outside corner was excellent. The wave section you were talking about, he was really consistent at going 3-3 and landing. Like his on TV, the left-hander after the rollers was so chattery and notchy, and he made it look like there wasn't a single bump in it. Like everybody else is chattering all the way through, and he is full throttle, full lean angle, bike doesn't get upset one bit, and he would carry enough momentum off that he would still have the bike squat and be able to like hop down the hill where everybody else would be kind of spinning coming down it. He was really, really good. That whole section before the wave, same thing. Outside, he would like manual over the tall one, and he would just do it every single lap. When he was coming through in the second moto, he was blowing people's doors off in that section.
Well, even Moto 2, when Tomac was in traffic, fastest time in that sector, 22.7. Second best, Jett, 23.2.
Yeah.
Astounding, I would argue.
He was basically threading the needle on a few guys in that section, but every single lap, just everybody would kind of funnel inside, and he would go outside, and no matter really who was in the way. I mean, the one lap, the edge of the track to shock had about this much room, and Eli threaded the needle and still made it happen.
Well, all of that explanation sounds very much like it's not to Eli's credit at all. And it's instead to the credit that it's instead credit to the comfort that he feels on his YZ450F. Yamaha Motor USA are also a sponsor of this podcast, and we thank them greatly for all that they do for us as well as motocross worldwide. As mentioned last week, you can hear, see what Eli does to a motorcycle, and he can push.
Feel it through the ground if you're standing next to it.
He can push as he does because he has full confidence in what Yamaha has to offer. You could argue this is the type of confidence he has always searched for in a machine, and that is what Yamaha brings to the table. And I recommend that you look what Yamaha brings to the table for you as well, because you can see a similar elevation in your performance thanks to Yamaha Motor USA. Big Mo, who knew?
I was really wondering where you were going with that at first when you said it didn't sound like it was credit to Eli.
Yeah, 100%. There was a few people that after that first sentence, I started punching their computer.
There might be a few Eli fans that rage quitted before they found out that was an ad.
100%. There were some comments written before I finished the little bit there. But we jumped down to Eli somehow. Eli actually wasn't on the podium, which, again, if you want to look at the Jett versus Eli dynamic, is there going to be a round where Jett misses a podium? Probably not. That in itself leans into Jett's favour, because I don't think that Jett has a 1-9 day for whatever reason. Obviously, it's circumstantial as well, but I just don't think Jett has that in him. Second was Aaron Plessinger, who confusingly said that he got mixed up in the first moto and thought that instead of 4 laps to go, there were 2 laps to go. But then in talking to Ian Harrison after the race, Ian just kind of straight up said AP got tired, until I reminded him that AP said that he got confused on the math, and then Ian was even kind of not sold, I think. Getting confused on the math could also be a result of getting tired and maybe spinning out a little bit. I don't know. But I do tend to believe AP in the sense that he came back fairly strong in Moto 2. So if he really blew himself up in Moto 1 to the point where he kind of folded with a couple of laps to go, I don't think he comes back like that in Moto 2. So maybe it was a genuine error. I don't know. I guess one of life's great unanswered questions again.
Hey, while we're on the subject of riders getting cooked, let's tackle this one. The cutting the time on the second motos. I thought it was interesting because the majority of riders I heard after the race agreed with it. 1 or 2 tried to flex their muscle and say they thought it was stupid. I've seen more talk on social media about being stupid, even from ex-riders. No offense, Weston Pike was on there basically doing the usual, I'm tough, and Weston is, don't get me wrong. But I saw more chatter from people that weren't at the race saying they shouldn't have done it. Well, it seemed like almost everybody I talked to that was there pretty much said, no, we're glad they did it.
I think it had to be done. And I think in talking to people, I think it all comes back to Josh Lichtel, which 2011?
Oh, man, I can't remember what year, but yeah.
I want to say 2011,
maybe.
But obviously that was a ridiculously serious, devastating issue, and that will ring in the ears of officials for years to come, decades to come, lifetimes to come. So no one wants to repeat that. So if the precautionary measure is to cut 5 measly minutes off and we avoid something like that, then yeah, fair. I don't think... And a decision like that's not being made without consulting powers that be, team managers, etc. If enough people disagreed, they probably could have pushed back. But yeah, as far as I heard in the paddock, everyone was on board and saw it as necessary. I mean, looking at the weather forecast going in, I think everyone's sort of writing on the wall that there was a very high chance that the motos would be shortened. Yeah. Like it was... I think it's not out of this world.
Yeah. I think the tough one is I saw some people quote, well, it gets hotter than that where they train. It gets this and that. And I don't know. I'm going off California just looking at Florida weather. It hasn't been that hot anywhere yet. And that was my big concern. I mean, Paula, we had the opposite end of the spectrum. We had a very cool intro to pro motocross. We were in the 70s most of the day. So to see such a large swing, yeah, there will be races later in the season likely that will be close to that hot with adjusted heat index, East Coast with humidity. I think a big one is just the fact that a lot of guys weren't ready for it. And there's not much you can do if Mother Nature if it hasn't been that warm out. There's not a lot these guys can do other than maybe ride around in sweatsuits all day. I don't know.
The good news is, I mean, I don't know about all 80 riders, but I didn't see anyone seriously or didn't hear of anyone seriously in a bad way because of the heat. So maybe that wouldn't be the case if we'd ran full-length second motos. Yeah, I think, yes, it would be great to sit here and say we're gladiators and we don't need that. But again, probably better to err on the side of caution than be blinded by ego and the need to flex muscles. AP has been very good, though. AP has been better than I expected, yes. Is this the ceiling? I lean towards yes, but he's been so good that maybe not. Do I think he's battling for this championship? No. But yeah, as you alluded to, maybe he can get in there for some moto wins, which, by the way, he's never won one of these, which I think some people would maybe be surprised at. But yeah, I think at this point, actually no, I was going to say at this point, AP is arguably cemented himself as best of the rest, but I still think it's too tight with AP, J-Coop, and Hunter. But no, I can't say enough good things about AP. I certainly don't have a negative.
I would say, because I think at times we saw, even when Eli was there, second moto in the first moto, it wasn't like he had this massive lead he had to be run down from. Like, the gap wasn't that big, and he was able to manage it. The pace is good. I mean, it just simply comes down to if he had 3 more laps in the tank at that pace, he'd have a moto win. Like, I guess maybe that's extending a little too much, not to say that Eli couldn't have pushed a little harder, but my gut feeling is if he could have maintained, his pace better across those last 3 or 4 laps, yeah, it would be pretty tough to beat him for the moto win. So yeah, as he settles in more, that kind of start, I don't see why not. I think Aaron gets his first moto win before the season's up. Does he get an overall? That's a bit of a stretch. We'll see, but I think he gets a moto win this season finally.
Well, yeah, let's do that quickly. Jett has won an overall, of course. We are fairly confident that Eli will get 1 at least. Will 450MX have more than 2 overall winners?
On one hand, I want to instantly say no, but gut feeling is we got to have at least 3. I would think we have at least 3. If we have only 2 at the end of the season, it's 100% not going to shock me, but I think we get a 3rd one. Whether it's just circumstance, I just think outdoors is so much more unique than Supercross, where things just click certain weekends for guys and tracks just click in conditions. So yeah, I still think an Aaron, even though I said I don't think Aaron's likely for an overall, an Aaron, a J-Coop, more Hunter, I guess, because of where Hunter's been at before, you would think one of them could click on a weekend and it could come together. But so I'm going to go with 3 for now.
Didn't we only have 2 last year? It would have only been Chase and Jett, right?
Chase and Jett, yeah, because Hunter never got an overall, correct?
No. Yeah, we did have 2 last year as well. So yeah, maybe, you know what? Obviously, Chase would be the one once he comes back who would be the safest pick for a 3rd.
I feel really bad saying that. I didn't think about that just because of the vague. We've talked about the vagueness. Well, of course he's coming back, so that's one. I'm so staring at the screen right now. You're right there. Duh.
I approach that with trepidation as well, because once Chase comes back, Eli and Jett are going to be right into the throes of the summer. They're going to have their bikes dialed in, they're going to have their conditioning dialed in, and Chase is going to be behind the 8 ball. So maybe not. That. It's not going to be like Chase jumps back in eventually. It sounds like Southwick now. And is just, immediately there. There's going to be a process with rebuilding with that too. So, yeah, that's going to be difficult. I mean, again, if there is a 3rd, I think it would be Chase. But I think 2 is the safe bet right now. I really do. I mean, maybe, hey, if you want to have a conversation about 1, I could also be open to that at this point. Although I certainly do think that Eli
I can't be open to the 1 conversation.
I could hear it.
You could hear. So you're entertained.
I'll entertain it.
Sure. Oh my goodness! Wow.
No, I won't.
Fans are punching the screen. Eli fans are punching you through the screen right now.
To be clear, I did just say 2 seconds ago that I certainly think Eli will win 1. Just to be clear, I want to make that abundantly, just make sure no one misheard that. Credit to J-Coop for 3rd overall on the day. I think that he's maybe surprising me a little bit with his progress from last year. Again, last year wasn't as good, I don't think, as other people had maybe recollected. And Hunter was fairly anonymous throughout the day as well. Honestly, there was no moment where Hunter stood out to me or I really took note of him out there. But a consistent day on what was likely an off day for him. Webb was good again, 7-7 for 6th. He is only strengthening his position at the top of the SMX World Championship standings as well. That's very important to him. And
yeah, I noticed that. I can't see him getting overhauled at this point, really.
No, neither can I.
Is Aaron the closest contender?
No, J-Coop's still J-Coop. Well, Chase obviously, but J-Coop as far as active riders go. But yeah, I think that is very important to Webb, and as long as he doesn't have any DNFs and continues to log results between 4 and 8, then I think he holds on and is the top seed heading into Charlotte. Hampshire, I don't know. Again, talking to him on press day, he made it sound like his wrist is really quite serious, which it of course is. He had surgery less than 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Bone removed.
He said that there are days, he said it's completely unpredictable and there are days where it's really bad and days where it is really good and there's no telling. And all of that sounds just awful. But aside from the second moto at Parla, he's been really steady and really consistent between that 6 and 8 range. And yeah, I don't think you can ask for much more. I mean, just imagine what RJ's going to do when he's healthy. You've got to think that if he was healthy, he would be much closer to the AP J Coupe Hunter pack.
Hey, this might be a very messed up comment, but this did run across my mind at one point during the race. You know, they were talking a lot on the broadcast, James was, about the 450 calming him down, how RJ said he was always just so balls to the wall, he had no time to think, and now the 450, he has enough power that he can think about where he wants to be. One other small thought that crossed my mind is the wrist being injured may not be the worst thing ever because he can't push so far hard on the 450 yet that it's helping the adaptation period.
Well, you could argue that, but then also in Supercross, the wrist was very problematic and he had some very big ones. So,
because he was still trying to override the living piss out of 250 at times.
But no, I think RJ's been very good. And, you know, I put to him on press day what we discussed on this podcast last week, the potential of this going so well that maybe it's almost a what have I done moment where he realizes he should have got on this bike even sooner. And he said that there were days in the last 2 years where he kind of looked at the team and was like, am I just wasting my career, wasting my time on this bike? Like, do I just need to move on? Of course, that championship adds some validity to his career decisions. If he didn't get the one last year, then I would argue at this point he certainly should have moved on even quicker.
A counter one, again, about just how well this is so far going for RJ. If, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, 2 months ago, 4 months ago, no matter when you would have had this conversation with me, if I would have come to you and said, maybe not you, but like if you would have gone to anyone and said, you know what, RJ Hampshire is going to start out, is going to be a better in 450 Pro Motocross than Jorge Prado is, I think they would have locked you up in an insane asylum.
Yes. Well, let's get on to Jorge. A very good post-race interview. Last week, he was very much a closed book, I felt. And this week, very much an open book. Not sure what changed from one week to the next, but that interview is also available on our YouTube channel, presented by Decal Works. Actually, Decal Works present all of our post-race content on Vital MX, from our post-race interviews that are available in podcast form to the ones on YouTube. Currently, there's a Jett and Jorge video live, to this very podcast right here, also presented by Decal Works. Decal Works are massive supporters of all we do at Vital MX, and of course they also back the Red Bull KTM factory racing team with Chase Sexton, Aaron Plessinger, Julian Beaumer and Tom Vialle. So thank you to Decal Works for all that they do. DecalMX.com to see what they have available for your steed. Prado was very revealing in this interview. Said that he needs more power out of the Cowie, said that his starts are not a technique issue, they're not an America issue, they're not a scoop issue, strictly needs more power. And this time last year, actually, I was talking to the Cowie guys and said, you need to make this bike as quick as you possibly can, because Jorge is notorious for wanting the most possible power out of his bike. Last year, Jeffrey told me in MXGP that if he had to ride with Jorge's engine, he would die, because it's the most aggressive 450 motor you can possibly get, which maybe you wouldn't think with Jorge, because he's quite small and, quite small, quite steady, quite technical. You don't really look at him as an Eli character.
Yeah, it's a difference in where his base RPM is, but I listened to him and it reminds me, in a sense, of Eli, is the throttle openings are big. Like, you listen to Jorge work the bike in sections. Yes, it's luggy, but it's not like Jett luggy, like small motions. Like, Jorge definitely looks for it in places to manipulate the bike if you listen to him, what he's trying to do.
And then,
and I wonder how much that has to do with the fact that at times he just doesn't look that comfortable. Like, he goes to do something, and I just don't know if he basically has what he wants to make things happen in the way he's looking for.
I certainly think that getting more power out of the motor is number one on a to-do list for now, and then from there they can start to address other issues. But the second moto was better, and he looked racier than he did at Fox Raceway. I do feel very confident about that, and he kind of echoed that sentiment after the race.
One I find interesting, I got to ask the team about this. He wants more power, but he's on the MXGP spec exhaust instead of the US spec exhaust, which the GP exhaust is quieter, so it should be more restrictive, technically speaking.
Yes.
Yeah, because he's on the spec muffler, at least the muffler. I haven't checked head pipe spec, but he's on the muffler spec that like Fevra's on, while Anderson's on the US spec muffler.
Fevra still is the only rider in the world who's kind of made this new gen Cowie work on a professional level. Quite curious. I know that there's more and more people, and again, people are jumping to conclusions of Prado after just 2 rounds. But there are people with one eyebrow raised looking at the Cowie like, like it's not got a great rap with execution with these professional stars on either side of the globe.
What's weird though is like I know people on other teams, people that are, I will straight up say on this sheet, this might give you an idea. There are people that are beating Jorge right now, or their camps that have looked at the Cowie and said they think the current Cowie is pretty good. And they just have kind of said, oh, the riders they have right now, they haven't figured it out. I'm definitely, it's interesting too, is the type of rider he is. Like, it's been a little while since, of course, Cowie has had a top, like a super competitive 450 guy and a guy maybe looking for that kind of character out of the bike. It is interesting because I remember, I think you may have had a similar conversation, like, okay, take their other main rider, Anderson. I know somebody at Cowie last year had said they've been detuning the bike for Anderson, that they've come up with stronger before, and it's just not. The past couple riders they've had in general haven't wanted that much, so they haven't had to work that direction.
Well, yeah, also AC obviously was struggling with injuries, so he was looking for less power just to make it manageable. So Prado is very much going in the opposite to what has become the norm at Cowie. It'll be interesting. I think Prado also said that he's not concerned from an ego point of view. Like, this is maybe the first time in his career that he's been beat down on so badly and has had to stare losses in the face in this manner. Like, I can't recall a time where Prado went into motos and it was like he has no chance. He kind of said he doesn't look at it like that. He said he still goes to the line thinking, I'm going to hold shot, I'm going to win, and then doesn't hold shot and goes, oh, okay, now let's just see what we can do. But he was adamant that he still has that mindset going to the start line, which I guess you've got to have if you're a professional rider.
The 9th itself, the result, do you look at this weekend as same as last weekend, better or worse? Because we did get the 5th in, what was it, the second moto?
Yeah, no, it's better.
But the tough one was, the 5th was what, 45 seconds adrift?
Well, still closer than Fox Raceway. And the 12th was heat induced a little bit. So, no, it was definitely, and again, leaning on him, he was very much of the opinion this was better than Fox Raceway. So,
Has Jorge been in, because I know there's only the occasional hot round in GPs, is heat a struggle point for Jorge? And if we keep hitting radically hot rounds, will this become something where he'll have to shift to an East Coast move sooner to get acclimated?
I think he'll be fine. There is a lot of pessimism around Prado and the heat, but that's more from like 2017. It's not so much based on recent information. Curious though, it was very hot at Hangtown. Everyone's heard. Vialle told me racing in Indonesia was 1,000,000 times harder with the heat there, but Prado told me it was not, and Hangtown was harder than Indonesia. So, curious,
I think,
two riders,
I think
different
that's
opinions.
a tough one, though, is some guys deal with humidity and dry climate different than others. Because, I mean, there's some guys that will prefer humid heat, and there's some guys that, prefer a dry heat or think the opposite is so much worse than the other.
Yeah, it's...
You could have a pretty similar heat index between the two. You could be at a dry round that's 100 and you could be a humid round that's 95 with 100% humidity, have a similar heat index. But I don't know. Maybe it's funny. I'm a West Coast person, but I personally think brutal dry, like I actually hate brutal dry heats worse. Like when Fox or Hangtown have hit 106, 108, I am much more miserable than East Coast Nationals when we're in the high 90s with high humidity.
Well, I think Prado will be fine. And you know what? Humidity will maybe be more familiar to him because of Indonesia and races like that. It's very, very humid there. And just to continue the Indonesia theme, Prado said that Hangtown reminds him of Sumbawa, which I never would have guessed. But that's going to be my fun game with Prado, as it was with Vialle. all year long. So that's very exciting indeed. Looking down the rest of the 450 list, not so much of it stands out to me. Anything you want to tackle?
I thought Cody was a little bit more back to normal. Good starts, sixth place, still fade a little bit at the end. Got a lot of bike fixes this week. I think he'll go back to being a top 10 guy within another round or two and have staying power. I was pretty impressed that Patrell hung again, just the heat spike. I thought Patrell was quite good. Heat wise, it definitely seemed like it affected Guillaume a little bit more. Because what happened to him second moto? 20th, was that just purely, did he get a bad start or
I honestly don't know. Couldn't tell you. He was not part of my GP roundup this week. I replaced him with Harrop. But
I forgot that I hate to say these words, but I almost forgot that Benny Bloss raced. His qualifying was good, and then he went 22:39 in the moto. So no added points to SMX standings.
Also, his qualifying time did impress me, to be honest.
Yeah, what did he qualify? Like around 10th or something?
Yeah, I want to say so. He did impress me.
I remember looking at the first time qualifying, I was like, okay, here we go. First Beta's first factory entry in 450 Pro Motocross.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a lot of prep there with the Beta team and Outdoors. So, and Zach Osborne was there as well, which I didn't know at all until he was on my flight on the way home. So who knew? On to 250s. Haiden Deegan, do we want to entertain perfect season or do we just move on?
I mean, I'm trying to think of how to word this. At this point, I would not be completely shocked. I think 250s, it's a little tougher, but I mean, it can happen. And I'm not sitting here promoting it. I'm just saying it can happen. The tough one I have right now is just, I don't know. It seems like a difference in career and time span of where these guys are at. Hayden's clearly the guy that's ready to move on. Like, he's racing these guys, but he's preparing to go 450 next year. He's prepared for the next step, and I don't know. I know, whether it's Levi or Joe or Julian or, anybody, Hymas, any of those guys, when we have those conversations, want to come in this and be title contenders. I mean, the kind of gut feeling is I think those guys hope they can be a title contender. I feel like Hayden's the only one in the class that actually believes and wants to be a title contender at this point. Like, Jesus, it's only 2 rounds and things can change, but I don't know. Like, how do you touch somebody who's, it's not even the raw speed is great, but the fact that he's brutal, fairly sick and still just destroys the guys in terms of fitness. Like, doesn't matter if he gets the start or not. Even a bad start for him isn't that bad, but I don't know. He definitely has all the right things going for him for a perfect season if you want to entertain that conversation.
Please allow me to be the first on record to congratulate Haiden on his 2025 outdoor title. A great run, very impressive. And yeah, I'd like to just make sure that I'm the first to put that flag in the moon a little bit, because I see no way. I mean, Joe's been great, but realistically, coming in, we all had Kitchen, Hymas, and Vialle down as his biggest threats, and all of them are gone.
He's already he's almost 2 motos ahead of both those guys the entire race weekend. Kitchen and Tom are 48 points down now. Hymas is farther back than that. I hate to say it, Joe's the closest to him in points, and I don't think any of us considered Joe being a title contender coming in this. And I don't consider Joe being a title contender in this, even though he's second in points. I don't mean that rudely. I just don't. I don't know what to say.
No, my opinion of Joe has
it's
changed
gone
somewhat.
It's changed. It's gone up. I give him props because he's moving through the field. Like, he's doing it good start, bad start, anything. Barring an issue for Haiden, do you see him taking the fight to Haiden? I guess is what I'm getting at. Joe's riding phenomenally. I cannot take that away from him saying I don't consider him a title contender. Joe is riding phenomenal at the moment.
Do I think he can take the fight to Haiden? No. Do I think he can keep him honest as far as he has lurking in the background? Yes. And let's be honest, our opinions of Joe coming into outdoors were influenced by a subpar Supercross season. But Joe has been great outdoors on more than one occasion, more PC days. But
it's weird, though, it's this early in the season. Because we always joke his MO is it happens late in the season. Like, usually, I'll say the one thing. Whenever he was at PC, it would go well because he was working with Nick. Whenever they would go to Michigan for the summer and get out of SoCal tracks, he would all of a sudden get really good within a week or two being back east. Shocker. Joe has started this season as a back east guy, and he's doing really well.
I just don't want to take anything away from Joe, and I want to give him full props and credit, because if you told me that Joe would go 2-2-2-2 across the first 2 rounds, a lot of twos there, then I wouldn't have believed it. And he's moved forward to those positions as well, so you cannot fault the way he's performed. And it's an interesting inter-Honda rivalry, because there was so much exterior emphasis on Hymas as the guy in Honda's 250 wing, and now Joe has really upset the apple cart there. And Joe is, of course, the one who's out of contract for next year and potentially leaving. So, interesting dynamic there as well.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm at this show. He said he's made his decision. He was vague about it. So
he said he's close to making his decision.
Yeah. So it's either Honda or PC at this point, but I don't know, man. It's weird that some of their people we consider title contenders coming into this, Hymas and Tom, have already basically, I hate to say the words blown it, but they've already had that throwaway. They've already blown it in a moto where they've had a DNF, a DNS, like not just a result. They've already had a terrible result. And then Levi's has still been up and down. And it's tough, though, because we were talking about where Haiden was strong last year was at the beginning of the season going 1-2, 1-1, 2-1, 2-1. Other guys will get moto wins. Yes, Joe is doing consistently better than the guys that were trying to consider themselves his title contenders last year, but it's only been off 2-2-2-2s, and I don't know how I feel about that. You know what I mean? At least the people that were in the conversation over the first 3 rounds last year got moto wins, even though they tossed at other points. That's where I'm almost more concerned than last year. Haiden won the title through the first, 5 rounds of the season by basically never having a bad race. Well, now he's up that. He's just winning.
Well, Haiden will win this title. That's, in my mind, that's clear cut. But again, that doesn't mean that I want to take anything away from Joe.
Okay, so not taking anything from Joe, we're stamping Haiden again, anything can happen, barring a bike, barring a crash, whatever. Do you feel strongly enough about Joe's performance so far? Again, the stretch he's already put out, do you put him down do you see the other guys in the conversation we were having running him down for second?
At the moment, no, because at the moment I do think Joe has just been the second best guy. Obviously, that could change. The other guys can get better. Joe could get worse. But as of right now, I think Joe is just better than Hymas, Kitchen, and Vialle. I think that is a situation. Again, that can change, but I think the fact that Haiden is first and Joe is second in the championship is a true representation of the power rankings in 250 MX. And talking about Joe is a great time to talk about Fox Racing, bold, untamed, and pushing the boundaries of aesthetic, style, and design. Fox Racing's new Spring MX graphics, launching with Hello Future, disrupt the status quo and make no apologies for the interruption. Compromised of head-to-toe kits, plus a slew of head-turning men's and women's lifestyle pieces, its spirited graphic combined with dialed-in fit, comfort, and construction sends a message loud, clear, and confidently. The future belongs to those brave enough to answer the call, and Joe has certainly answered the call through 2 rounds of pro motocross. Kitchen was I don't know if Kitchen's third is representative of his speed or more his fitness. Because I almost feel like rather than being the third best guy as far as speed, it was more that he was the third best guy because he willed himself to that position and managed to take advantage of others. I don't know. I could go either way, but I do feel like there was an element of his result that was down to fitness, strength, power, etc., etc. So I don't know. That was obviously better than Fox Raceway, but I'm still not I still feel like Levi's kind of in the pack speed-wise. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with it. It's tough. He's the last consistent result here because after Levi, it gets a little all over the place. Although I will say, we'll get to his Garrett's. It's decently consistent. I kind of agree with you. It doesn't. His speed didn't jump off the page at me at all yesterday. He'd be in a battle with Julian, be in a battle with Ty, and he just kind of wore those guys down. He didn't really sprint away from any of them. It was just more he rode till they all completely fell apart.
I was impressed with Juju again. He was a standout at Fox Raceway and backed it up with an even better result at Hangtown. He's been struggling with bike setup, going all over the place, and returned to his base setup for Moto 2 and has now maybe found a direction, but he took a shot in the dark before Moto 1 and hated it. So he at least now knows what not to do. Also interesting was he was very elusive after the race in post-race discussion about whether or not he would be going east for the summer. Like, almost no commented it, which led me to believe there must be some sort of internal debate or dispute about where he should go.
Which is weird, because I could have swore somebody in the tent told me that eventually he would be, not on like Baker's program, but he would potentially be going back there during the summer. So I don't know if that's him showing like, hey, I don't need to, or maybe controversial. I wonder if maybe he has something else in mind. I wonder, like, you know what I mean? Like, if he's not commenting. My theory on no comment is either he wants to stay put or he wants to go somewhere even different that's not part of the norm.
But he's been great. All the credit to him. Marchbanks has as well. Another consistent day for him. He still just needs starts, though, and I don't know where those come from.
Hey, all I got to say is every rider I hear in the class that's a little bit bigger on a 250, because I've heard kids that are 165 pounds bitch about their teammates being 140, 145 pounds. Garrett's 190 pounds from what I've heard right now. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, it's killing him a little bit on the starts, and that's to be expected, but Jesus Christ, he's making it work.
Jordan also said that his size is maybe hurting him out of the gate. He moved forward to 11.6 results, massive rebound from Fox Raceway, and a day that was very similar to what he was doing every single week last year. So he's almost fallen back into the same routine of bad start, claw his way back to the cusp of the top 5, and then wonder what more could have been possible. I think Jordan was quite actually revealing after the race. He said that he kind of this week decided internally that he should stop making excuses, like thinking to himself, oh, I'm too heavy, or oh, I'm not an outdoor guy. He was like he said he kind of had to talk to himself and reassured himself that he is meant to be here. He is an outdoor guy and he can do well. I think maybe he was falling into the trap of not doubting himself, but almost finding comfort in the excuses. I don't know.
Which, I mean, if any times now it's to get rid of it, it sounds like, currently the trajectory is he could be on 450s outdoor next year, so you kind of want to eliminate that sooner than later. Just toss it aside. Knew him, kind of cap this off in a better situation.
Harrop was better as well. Got to learn the pace at the front in the second moto, which will be valuable. Was good in the second time session. Seemed to be one of the guys who had no problem with the heat. He managed to move forward at the end of the motos. So, a better day all round for Triumph. And Masterpool was sick for the second week in a row, but I don't know if that was the same sickness as Parla or a different sickness. But he said that basically the fourth in Moto 1 was all he had, and the second moto was a salvage mode. But I don't know curious to me because he really dug in Moto 1.
Ty and being sick seems to be a common answer. I just, when you say Ty said he was sick, I'm like, I feel like I hear this a lot with him. It may seem like a rude comment, but it's honestly what hits me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I came up in outdoors a few times last year that, I was sick, I haven't been able to train this, and I'm like, okay, are we talking about we're run down sick, like we have a problem, or are you just like shaking too many hands at getting sick, kind of sick?
Well, he seems to say that he throws up a lot, so but yeah, I don't know. Dylan Schwartz did very well.
I'll throw you one right now since we just got past Ty, and I think part of this depends on Joe. Ty Garrett conversation. We've talked about this before, because like Levi's re-upped at 2 years. Cameron's there another year. Seth's there another year. Drew has a 2-year deal. If it was down to Garrett or Ty, man, who are we picking at this point?
Oh, I think it's Garrett the way through. Not only because of the results in outdoors, but Garrett being a million times better in Supercross. Also, Garrett being very ingrained into Kawasaki now that he's working with Brock. In every single column, I think Garrett is the leader.
The box.
Yeah.
Like Ty has that fourth. Like, I know there will be a point this year. Of the two of them, Ty is most likely to have a better single round performance this year, both moto and overall, there's a high chance that Ty will have a better performance than Garrett this summer, maybe even two. But across the board, Garrett has been so much more consistent. It has such a wider range out of the two of them right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I was also very, very impressed with Moseman and Cochran. Moseman should have gone 5.5, 5.4, but crashed late in the second moto. And actually, how about this? On press day, Moseman was a bit confused, surprised by my comment. I said, I feel like everyone gives you a lot of credit for what you do in Supercross, but doesn't really mention you outdoors. And he was kind of surprised. But I feel like no one ever gives Moseman credit outdoors and talks about him as someone who can do something. I don't know why. I mean, he's had great rides.
Yeah, he's had great rides. I think usually the Supercross peaks are a little bit higher, and possibly because he's been, I'd have to go back and look, how big is the sampling sizing with him outdoors, because he gets hurt in Supercross, then we don't see him for a chunk of outdoors. But I agree with you, like, you see him up there, and it's like, no, he's been here before. Yeah, his crash was a bummer for that, because he definitely had a solid 5.5 style performance going. Interesting one, too, where he said, he's definitely been one wondering what he's doing next year. He's performing fine. I would, you never know, a star. They could hire a kid that they think's a better chance, but I mean, Moseman is clearly the second best guy on the team right now. Come outdoors, and the best guy will not be on a 250 come outdoors next year.
Yeah, and he said to me on press day, he said, like, my priority right now is proving that I deserve a spot on this team. So it seems that he is at least still open to that idea. And he said he went to Bobby and said, like, if you're not hiring me, let me know, because I need to shop around. So he seems to be very forward with his line of thinking of what he wants to do in 2026. And it doesn't sound like that door's been shut yet, although I don't know how likely it is that it stays open. And on a somewhat related note, Cochran showed a lot of potential and speed that maybe Star would be interested in. Perfect
time for Casey, because, I mean, I have heard that he has some sort of a re-up offer for Gas Husky, whoever we're calling it this next point. I do know the club team's extremely interested in him, but yeah, even the Star, like Casey, I mean, the starts and the sprint pace at the beginning didn't surprise me too much. Yes, he drifted to a 12.12, but I still thought, this is going to sound a little contradictory, I thought the staying power was fairly impressive. Yes, it eventually fell apart, but even as some guys started to make moves on him, I thought he hung in there pretty decent, and he actually tried to like fight back until he finally was just destroyed.
Yeah, I thought he would lead a lap. I didn't think he would lead however many he did, I certainly didn't think he had that in him, especially after missing so much time. He's very much still in the rebuild phase. So, yes, he maybe faded a little bit too much at the end, but again, this is early in his rebuild process. So, don't expect too much too soon. And the fact, I put a lot of credit in the fact that he was willing to lead and willing to make himself vulnerable.
I think it's easier to look at it like you could look at the blow up and be like, oh, well, what if he would have tried to manage the middle more? I'm more for the, hey, he proved that he can run with the guys. He tried to dice with them. He wasn't really letting up when people pass him. If you look and go, okay, he like started to fall apart and then blew up really bad in the last 7 minutes, that's a lot easier to fix than somebody who can whole shot lead 2 laps, but as soon as guys make passes, he like falls apart pace-wise. That to me mentally is harder to fix than going, okay, let's just get the kid in a bit better shape. Like that'll come.
Yeah. Faulkner was better. Put points on the board, moved forward, was in the fight. I think that was a valuable step forward for him. Vialle very nearly didn't line up for Moto2. He got road rash from a scoop tyre down his elbow, down his side, so I think he was really quite beat up. Again, realistically, I just think his championship's done now, which is a shame. And also,
that's a big difference from GPs to here. Like, we think the outdoors is a long series, but it's not enough motos to come back where it feels like, GPs, you full on DNF a moto, like you have enough time in the season to claw it back, and that's just not possible.
And basically, it was all but confirmed to me from Tom and Ian Harrison that Tom will be re-signing with KTM this week, sort of time. And also confirmed that, as we speculated, KTM will be 3 450s and 1 250. The 250 will be Juju. The 450s will be AP, Tom, and blank. Watch this space. Although it's very nice to see how congratulatory Ian Harrison was to Eli after Moto 1. On TV, he very much went out of his way to congratulate Eli on a great first moto.
Yeah,
So
those orange number 3s look great.
really nice, really nice. What a nice guy. What a nice guy.
How about some of the oddball results though? Like Drew 19th, 7th. Drew was like in 19th the entire first moto. That one really puzzled me to see the comeback for second in the second moto, because it wasn't like, oh, he came way through, because I was watching long battle with him, so I saw on screening like he was 19th forever in the first moto. But then to rebound to a 7th, that one had me a little bit puzzled.
Hymas had food poisoning this week, so essentially had nothing to give at the end of the first moto, and I think he wasn't even allowed to start the second. So, tough go for Hymas, who put a lot of emphasis on this outdoor season. And quite like I feel like we're at the point with Hymas now where he just needs to string a consistent season together. And we're far from that now in outdoors. Obviously, Supercross was up and down horrifically at points. So, yeah, that's tough road for Hymas. And a tough blow to almost be eliminated from title contention so early. The other two star riders. First of all, J-Mart. So he also actually confirmed on press day that despite the wording in the PR, the contract that he signed was just for three races.
Okay.
So, bearing that in mind, it's not exactly been successful in 2/3 of this time. So I don't know what happens after Thunder Valley. But then he made it very much sound like it actually isn't hinging on his results, and it's more hinging on when the other riders will be ready to race again. And Max won't be ready until after the summer break at the earliest. Pierce only got back on the bike this week. Cole Davies isn't anywhere close from what I know. Who else are we missing?
Dax has not been on the bike that long, like a week as well.
So maybe they keep J-Mark going just purely because, hey, no one else is ready.
And it's not like, no offense, it's not like Nate's killing it, so it's like, might as well rotate the bike. Because there is that at least factor with J-Mart where I get it. It's like if you wait a couple more weeks, like, hey, it could click. Where, no offense, between the two of them, who do you think, between him and Nate, which one of them all of a sudden is going to become a top 5 guy a couple rounds down the road, or top 10?
I mean, I'd rather take option C and say neither, but...
if I had to make you choose one of the two.
No, but to his credit, J-Mart was better before his crash in the first moto. 11th, I think, around there. Like, it was nothing to write home about, but it was definitely a significant step from Fox Raceway.
Compared to last weekend, yes.
So there is that. And I don't know about Nate because in that second moto crash, when he was waving, someone clipped his arm and it looked very much like he was in severe pain. So I don't know if there's now a hand or an arm injury.
Speaking of going down with him, the other oddball result was Seth went 640. Seth went down with him, and then they only showed him walking off. Seth basically got up from him and Nate, and I don't know if he just kind of went rage and blindly went for it for a couple laps. I think he made it about 4 more sections and just weeded his brains out and just walked away from the bike. So that didn't go well for Seth. Seth actually got up after the Nate incident and then made it a few more sections and crashed again.
It is crazy when you look at, like, from 15 to 19, Hammaker, Faulkner, Vialle, Ryder D, Hymas.
Well, I just laugh at some of the results. Like, Ty in 8th, there's a 4th in a moto. Okay, Dylan Schwartz 9th or 10th, more consistent. Moseman in 10th, there's a 5th in there. Drew Adams 13th, there was a 7th in a moto. Seth with a 6th. Like,
even
all over the place.
Even Juju going 8-4 for 4th. Like, when did you see that? And there was a few of those. Even Jordan Smith, 11-6 for 6th. Harrop, 10-9 for 7th. Yeah. There's a lot of that. For whatever reason, and maybe this isn't surprising, but the 250 riders as a group seem to struggle a lot more with the heat than the 450 riders, which maybe comes back to Eli's point a week ago about how you don't realize how tough outdoors are when you're 19, 20, 21, 22, and you really do need the man strength. Maybe that is a perfect representation of Eli's
we come back to
thesis.
If you're talking about endurance sports, again, like I trying to compare a sport, but cycling, like, dudes are amazing from 27 to 32. Young kids have a hard time having the staying power. We all know they have the sprint, they have the energy, they're hyper, but actual staying power is tough. So
the biggest news of the week.
Jeffrey Hurling's pitch?
No, we're not. Well, we'll get to that. We're not doing the Motor X Tom Vialle sympathy corner because, well, we could do the sympathy corner because he crashed and, like, he's hurt. Well, he's not hurt, but he was beat up. Okay. But that doesn't work. the Tom Vialle apology corner, I'm not sure we've got anything to apologise for. So, for the foreseeable, we've now got the Motorex Memorial Chase Sexton moment of silence. We missed Chase Sexton this week, of course, the number one. Sat in the pits, idle. Heartbreaking for all. And this is our moment.
Did you have a good sop near the bike? If people are walking through the pits because they see you over there shedding a single tear to go with the... Jeez, I hit my laptop.
So this is our moment to... Now, there we go. There we've done our Memorial Motorex moment Chase Sexton time. Motorex, known for high-quality engine oils, also has an entire line of clean, care and lube products to keep your bike running strong and looking great. Maintenance made easy with race-proven Motorex clean, care and lube products. Yeah, I like that. So stay tuned for that. We've got, again, Ian said that as far as he's aware. So first of all, Ian acknowledged that the Chase Sexton announcement was indeed ridiculously vague, which I appreciated. He acknowledged that. Second of all, I said to him, the PR said he's only out for round 2. Let's be real here. That's not going to happen. And he said, things can change because he's not technically got a broken bone. But Ian expects him to come back after the break at Southwick, which would be 4 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, which again, makes sense. That does make a lot of sense, although the only detraction, I think, from that is that Southwick is a tough race to come back at. So maybe you want to wait a week. If you do want to wait a week, enter Lewis, I Had a Dream, which also, I fucked that up because I wasn't expecting him to kind of kill my dream before I even started it. So I was going to say, in the words of Martin Luther King, but he ruined it. He ruined my pitch. But Southwick doesn't clash with MXGP. So if Chase isn't back by then, let's just put Hurlings on the bike. Let's finally do it. All of this talk of Hurlings at Southwick, let's just put him on that bike and have a jolly old time. And he's back. Congrats to Motorex, by the way, sweeping both MXGP and MX2 today. Motorex, really worldwide.
How about Sasha Kunin's yeet off the track to the wall, right?
Motocross is hard. No, right. I think we're done. Happy?
There we go. Neat, happy, over. Okay.
Thank you to Decal Works, Yamaha Motor USA, Fox Racing, Motorex, and Yoshimura for all of their support of the Vital MX post-race show. Thank you to everyone for listening, watching. This has been the Hangtown edition, and of course, coming to you thick and fast, we will be back in 7 days' time to discuss Thunder Valley, Colorado, round 3 of the 2025 Pro Motocross Series and round 20 of the SMX World Championship. We will see you then.